The town of Elmsworth was always wrapped in a gentle quietness. It wasn't the silence of loneliness, but the peaceful hush of lives that moved softly, neighbors who smiled in passing, the baker who remembered everyone's favorite bread, and the postman who always whistled the same cheerful tune. It was a place where people didn't need to shout to be heard. Kindness had its own language there, one made of gestures, glances, and small acts that echoed longer than words. On a rainy Thursday morning, that quiet hum of kindness found its way into the life of a woman named Clara Winslow. She was 53, a librarian at the old town library that stood near the park, its tall windows always smudged with the fingerprints of children pressing their faces to the glass. Clara was known for her calm demeanor, her neat bun of graying hair, and her gentle voice that could hush even the most restless room with a soft, "Now, let's listen to the story." But lately, Clara's smile had dimmed. Her husband, Richard, had passed away nearly a year ago, and since then, the world had felt quieter in a way that hurt. The library still smelled of books and rain-soaked coats, children still came for story hour, but something inside her had folded into itself. People tried to help, offering casseroles, sending cards, inviting her to tea, but Clara's heart felt closed, as if even kindness couldn't reach through the ache. That morning, she was late for work. Her umbrella had broken, and the rain had already seeped through her coat by the time she arrived at the bus stop. She sighed, clutching her worn leather satchel close to her chest. The bench was wet, so she stood, her shoes soaking in the puddles gathering near the curb. The only other person there was a young man in a mechanic's uniform, probably in his 20s. He was sitting on the far end of the bench, hunched over his phone, a paper bag of breakfast steaming beside him. He looked up briefly, noticed her shivering, and then without a word, stood and moved the bag to make space. He took off his jacket, a faded gray one with oil stains, and held it out to her. "Oh, no, I couldn't," Clara protested immediately, startled. "You'll get soaked yourself." He shook his head with a faint smile. "It's just water, ma'am. You look colder than I do." She hesitated, then finally took it, feeling the surprising warmth of the fabric. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice almost lost to the sound of rain. When the bus came, they sat quietly side by side. Clara wanted to say more, to ask his name, to offer to return the jacket, but when she looked up, he had already pulled his cap low and was dozing against the window. By the time they reached her stop, he was still asleep. She left the jacket folded neatly on his lap, whispering one more quiet "thank you" before stepping out into the mist. The next few days passed like the turning of soft pages. Clara found herself thinking about that small act more than she expected. She began to notice other moments like it around her, the old man at the library who brought in coffee for the staff without being asked, the student who helped another find a lost earring, the stranger who picked up a dropped glove and ran to return it. It was as if that simple kindness had tuned her senses back to the gentle symphony of goodness around her. One afternoon, as she was shelving books, she came across an envelope tucked into the return slot. It wasn't addressed to anyone, just a plain white envelope with a single word written on it, "Thanks." Curious, she opened it carefully. Inside was a note written in uneven handwriting. "Whoever found my wallet last week, thank you. You returned it to the post office with everything still inside. I couldn't believe it. I was about to lose hope, but you restored my faith in people. Whoever you are, you matter more than you think." Clara smiled, touched by the words. She pinned the note to the small bulletin board near the entrance, the one that usually held event flyers and lost and found notices. Beneath it, she wrote in soft pencil, "Kindness belongs everywhere." Over the next week, more envelopes appeared. Some had drawings, others had long letters, a few had only 1 or 2 sentences. "Thank you to the nurse who held my hand before my surgery. To the man who pushed my car when it broke down, thank you for stopping. To the stranger who smiled at me when I was crying in the park, you have no idea how much that helped." The board filled quickly, the papers overlapping like leaves in the wind. People started coming in just to read them. Children pointed and asked their parents to explain what each one meant. And slowly, a quiet ritual began. Every morning, Clara would find 1 or 2 new notes slipped under the door or tucked between returned books. They were anonymous, but they connected everyone in ways words rarely could. Gratitude had found a home in the library. One evening, as Clara was locking up, she noticed a young girl sitting on the steps outside, clutching a small backpack. She looked about 12, her hair tangled from the wind. "Are you all right, dear?" Clara asked gently. The girl looked up, startled. "Oh, I'm fine. I was just resting." Clara nodded but saw the uncertainty in her eyes. "Would you like to come inside for a bit? It's cold." The girl hesitated, then nodded. Inside, Clara made her a cup of cocoa from the staff room and handed her a blanket. After a few moments of silence, the girl spoke. "I'm waiting for my mom. She said she'd pick me up after work, but she's late again. Sometimes she forgets." There was no bitterness in her voice, just a quiet acceptance that made Clara's heart ache. "Well, you're welcome to stay until she comes," Clara said softly. "You can even read something if you'd like." The girl's face lit up. "Really? I love books." She wandered through the aisles, finally choosing an of Green Gables. As she read, the tension in her shoulders eased, and a small smile began to bloom. When her mother finally arrived, apologetic and breathless, the woman clasped Clara's hands. "Thank you for looking after her," she said, eyes glistening. "It means more than I can say." Clara smiled, feeling that whisper of gratitude again, soft but powerful. "No need to thank me," she said, though her heart warmed all the same. That night, she added her own note to the wall. "To the young man at the bus stop who lent me his jacket, you reminded me that kindness still lives quietly among us. Thank you for that." Weeks passed, and the board became known throughout town as the Wall of Thanks. People stopped by just to read the new editions, sometimes leaving with tears in their eyes. Local teachers brought their students to see it. The bakery down the street even placed a small box on their counter labeled "For your thank you notes." It was as if Elmsworth had discovered a new way to speak, a way made entirely of gratitude. One morning, Clara found an envelope unlike the others. It was sealed with a small sticker of a wrench and had her name written in careful block letters, "For Miss Winslow." Inside was a short note. "Dear Miss Winslow, I don't know if you remember me. I was the guy at the bus stop who gave you my jacket. I came into the library yesterday and saw the Wall of Thanks. I don't usually write things like this, but reading all those notes made me think. I lost my mom 2 years ago, and for a long time, I stopped talking to people much. But that morning, you said thank you, and it stuck with me. It reminded me that even small things matter. I started helping more, fixing neighbors' cars for free when I can, checking in on the old man next door. And yesterday, I realized something: kindness isn't just something you give. It's something that changes you, too. So, thank you for your words, for that wall, for everything. Mark." Clara sat there for a long time, the letter trembling in her hands. The rain tapped against the windows, just like the morning she had met him. She smiled through her tears, whispering to the empty library, "Thank you, Mark." The following week, she organized a small gathering called Whispers of a Thank You. She placed candles around the library and invited anyone who wanted to share a story of gratitude. The room filled quickly, old friends, strangers, families, even children clutching notes they had written themselves. One by one, they stood and spoke, sometimes shyly, sometimes through tears, about the moments that had changed them. When Mark spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. "I used to think kindness had to be big to matter," he said. "But it doesn't. It's the little things, the jacket, the thank you, the note on a wall, that can ripple out and reach people you'll never even meet." When he finished, the room was silent for a moment before the applause began, not loud, but full of warmth. Clara looked around at the faces glowing in the candlelight and felt something stir deep within her chest. It wasn't just happiness, it was connection. The kind that binds people without words, that lingers in the spaces between gestures and hearts. From that day on, Elmsworth's library wasn't just a place for books. It became a haven for gratitude, a space where whispers of thank you floated in the air like soft music. Even visitors from other towns came to see the Wall of Thanks, leaving behind notes of their own. Years later, when Clara finally retired, the new librarian asked if she wanted the wall taken down for renovation. She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "No," she said softly. "Leave it. Some words deserve to stay." And so it did. Long after Clara was gone, the wall remained, a living testament to the quiet power of gratitude. Each note, each whisper, each simple thank you became part of a chorus that never faded. Because kindness, once spoken, even in a whisper, has a way of echoing forever.